Zira claimed Kovu wasn't Scar's son, but what if she lied? Let's start with something that's been haunting Lion King fans for decades. A theory so bold, it flips everything we thought we knew about Scar, Zira, and the future of the Pride Land. Zira, one of Disney's most chilling villains, devoted her life to Scar's legacy. She trained Kovu to avenge him, lived in exile because of him, and raised her entire family in his name. But here's the catch. She also says Kovu isn't Scar's son. That line has puzzled fans since 1998. Because seriously, who risks everything for revenge if the cub she's raising isn't even Scar's blood? Here's the theory. Zira lied, not just to Simba, not just to the Pride Lands, but to everyone, maybe even herself. And if that's true, then everything, from Scar's final days to Zira's obsession, starts to look very, very different. This is the story the movie never told you. If you're already hooked, hit like, because we're just getting started. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most twisted, emotional alternate timelines in the Lion King universe. What if Scar and Zira weren't just allies, but something more? What if they had a child together, and Zira's entire life was built around finishing what Scar started? Scar wasn't just a villain. He was a visionary to some, a tyrant to others. But above all, he was cunning, strategic, and utterly obsessed with legacy. He believed he deserved the throne, and in his mind, if he couldn't rule forever, someone in his bloodline should. That's where Zira comes in. She wasn't just a follower. She was loyal beyond reason. She believed in Scar when no one else did. And some believe Scar returned that loyalty with something more than power. He gave her a future, a child, a second chance at the throne. But here's a chilling question. Why did Scar want a child in the first place? Some fans believe Scar's motivation wasn't just legacy. It was revenge by design. He knew he couldn't outlive Simba forever. But if he couldn't rule, his bloodline could. Maybe Scar didn't want a son to love. Maybe he wanted a son to weaponize, a living embodiment of everything he believed he was owed, a lion molded in his image, to take the throne not through peace, but through strategy, through vengeance. Scar didn't want redemption. He wanted a second chance, and by proxy. Was Zira really Scar's equal, or just a pawn in his plan? Some fans believe that Scar, a master manipulator, used Zira. He fed her loyalty with promises and half-truths. Maybe Kovu was never meant to be an heir at all, but a distraction, a way to keep Zira loyal while Scar worked in the shadows. This twist makes Scar even darker, and Zira even more tragic. Zira, fiercely loyal and fanatically devoted, was the perfect candidate. Maybe Scar made her a promise. If I fall, you raise him. You shape him. He will take back what's ours. But after Scar's death, everything fell apart. Simba took the throne. Zira was banished, and the plan had to go underground. Publicly, she claimed Kovu wasn't Scar's to protect him. Privately, he was her link to the lion she loved, her chance to fulfill their shared destiny. And here's where it gets deeper. Some fans think Zira was more than a soldier. She was Scar's chosen queen, his secret partner in ruling the Pride Land. And Kovu? He wasn't a random cub. He was Scar's final move, but clues only tell half the story. To understand Zira, we have to look at what she lost. Let's break down the clues, and there are more than you might expect. First, Zira's language. She doesn't just miss Scar. She mourns him like a fallen king or a lost partner. There's grief in her words, bitterness, and that kind of pain doesn't come from politics. It comes from something personal. Then there's Kovu. His resemblance to Scar isn't just aesthetic. Dark fur, green eyes, a sharp jawline. He doesn't look like Nuka. He doesn't look like Vitani. He looks like Scar. And in animation, that's rarely a coincidence. Some fans online have even pointed out that Disney never officially gave Scar a romantic partner. But visually, Zira and Scar seem connected. It's subtle, but powerful. Design is storytelling. Plus, Zira's fanaticism makes more sense if she wasn't just fighting for an ideology, but for family. Her mission wasn't political, it was personal. She wasn't just Scar's follower, she was his widow. And here's where things get darker. Some fans believe Zira began to lose touch with reality after Scar's death, that she started to see him in visions, talk to him, believe he was still guiding her. Alone in exile, raising his child, she may have convinced herself he was still with her, not in spirit, but in command. What if Zira's loyalty didn't just come from grief, but from delusion? What if her war against Simba wasn't just a plan, but a hallucination fueled by obsession? When word reached Zira that Scar had been thrown to the flames by his own allies, she didn't cry, she didn't scream, she vanished. Some say she wandered the outlands for days. Others say she sat in silence, staring into the horizon. But when she returned to her pride, She wasn't the same lioness. The grief was gone, replaced by fire. That was the moment Zira broke and rebuilt herself, not as Scar's mate, but as his legacy. If Scar and Zira truly shared a bond, romantic or otherwise, then her entire arc becomes a tragedy. She loses the lion she believed in. She's cast out by the new king. Her children grow up in exile, and her only hope is to raise their child, Kovu, to finish what Scar started. But maybe it's more than vengeance. Maybe it's guilt. Maybe Zira blames herself for Scar's downfall. Maybe training Kovu is how she copes, how she tries to make things right. And then there's the fan theory that Zira, isolated and obsessed, began to lose her mind, that she started seeing Scar, talking to him, believing she was still acting under his guidance. What if her whole plan was shaped by a ghost? It's not just about reclaiming the throne. It's about redeeming the lion she loved, or thought she did. This is where it gets messy. What about Nuka? Vitani? If Kovu is Scar's biological son, are they too? Some fans think no, that Zira had other mates, that Kovu was special because he was Scar's. That would explain Nuka's intense jealousy, his desperation to be seen, to be enough. And Vitani? Her loyalty to Zira is unshakable. But when the time comes, she switches sides. Maybe because she finally saw what Zira couldn't, that Scar's path only leads to ruin. Now imagine an alternate timeline, one where Scar defeats Simba, one where Zira becomes queen, not in exile, but in pride, and their cub, heir to a kingdom built on fear. In this version of the story, Kovu is raised in the open. No lies, no exile, just power. He grows up watching Scar rule, brutal, strategic, feared, and Zira, now queen, teaches him not just to survive, but to dominate. The Pride lands don't thrive, they bend. The circle of life isn't honored, it's broken. And here's the twist. In this world, Kovu doesn't question who he is. He embraces it. He becomes Scar's successor in every way. The legacy doesn't die, it spreads. But maybe, just maybe, the very thing that broke Zira in our timeline would have broken the world in that one. Let's rewind. What if Scar had survived? What if he and Zira had ruled together? Would Kovu have grown up in luxury, a prince raised for greatness? Or would Scar have shaped him into a cold, ruthless successor? Some fans imagine an alternate timeline, where Scar and Zira raise Kovu from birth, a dark royal family, ruling the Pride lands with fear. Simba gone, Mufasa forgotten. The circle of life shattered, but fate had other plans. Zira believed she was shaping a king, but the truth is, she was shaping a ghost, a memory, a shadow of the lion she lost. And when Kovu falls in love with Kiara, it's not just betrayal, it's heartbreak. For Zira, it's the moment her dream dies. Because Kovu doesn't just reject her plan, he rejects Scar. Disney has gone on record saying Scar isn't Kovu's father, but they've never said who is. No backstory, no name, no flashback. Here's an even darker theory. What if Zira believed Scar was Kovu's father, but he wasn't? What if she was lying not to protect Kovu, but because she couldn't face the truth? That would make her entire mission a tragedy of misunderstanding. And here's something else. Some fans believe the reason Disney left this all so vague is because they had to. Scar fell in fire. Zira fell in flood. Both consumed by the storms they created, and both forgotten by the world they tried to rule. Scar's bloodline doesn't end in flames. It survives. It evolves. Through Zira's pain, through Kovu's choices, Zira becomes more than a villain. She becomes a fallen queen. Scar becomes more than a tyrant. He becomes a tragic father. And Kovu? He becomes the bridge between two legacies. Not just Scar's heir, not just Zira's weapon, but his own lion. In the end, maybe this isn't just a story about power. Maybe it's about love. Twisted, broken, buried beneath pride and pain, but real. Zira never stopped loving Scar. And maybe, just maybe, Scar's legacy didn't die with him. It lived in her, and through her, it was passed on. Because in the Pride lands, legacy never dies, only changes shape. And maybe that was Scar's plan all along. Now it's your turn. Do you believe Zira and Scar were more than allies? Was Kovu their secret son? Or was it all in Zira's head? And what does that mean for Simba, Kiara, and the future of the Pride Land? Let us know your wildest fan theories in the comments. Drop your headcanons, your art, your what-ifs, and if you're still watching, you're one of us. Hit that like button, subscribe for more Disney deep dives. Because next time, we're going even darker.